What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, who has braved the winter cold across the country to make it back home in time for the show. How you doing, Legs?
I'm good, man. I made it home. Unlike, unfortunately, a lot of people yesterday in this industry got stranded in different places. I was fortunate enough to get out of Chicago. I'm shocked that we got out because it was snowing so hard. We were sitting on that plane. We de-iced a couple different times. Nerve-wracking. I was like, basically, they're like, if we don't get out of here now, we're not getting out of here. And everybody white-knuckled it down the runway, and we got up in the air. And then I knew I was going someplace where I could land because I was coming to Florida. But some people that were going back to the Northeast, not so much.
I never like it when they're doing the de-icing thing and they're like, we might be able to make it out, but it might be too dangerous. We'll find out. And then you start going down the runway and you're like, hold on. Is this right on the line of too dangerous, but we're going for it? I never like that feeling.
They like basically suspended all service on the flight because there was so much turbulence the entire time.
Oh.
So it was like about a 3-hour flight and nobody even coming by to check on you.
Yeah.
Turbulence the whole time. I was very relieved, man, to touch down in Florida, get a day at home, and then I go right back into the winter weather, leaving tomorrow for Cleveland. So
nice. You're getting all the warm weather spots this time of year. You also, real quick, you could tell this story. You were not supposed to go to Chicago, right? It was like a couple last-minute changes with all the
it was crazy. Yeah, because we knew the weather was coming into Dallas. We had Lakers-Dallas, ABC primetime Saturday night. That was our game. Myself, Mike Breen, Richard Jefferson. And the weather was so iffy, whether they were going to play the game, we had to have a backup plan. So split the crew up. RJ went to Dallas with Mark Jones. And then Mike Breen and myself went to Chicago. And if that game didn't air in Dallas, we were going to be the main ABC game. As it turns out, they played the game. Mark and Richard did a great job. They covered that game. And then Mike and I actually still called the Boston-Chicago game. But you're not going to go head-to-head against ABC. It makes no sense, like on ESPN or something. So we ended up just being on the app. So it was like if you're watching ESPN on the app, you could have seen Mike Breen and myself. But I'll tell you one thing that was really cool about that game. It was Derrick Rose jersey.
Oh, that's right.
So there was a ton of former players there, and then the best part was we got to interview Derrick Rose like on the air in the fourth quarter. He came and sat with Mike and myself, and we got to interview him and talk to him on one of the biggest nights of his life. So it was pretty cool.
It was really cool. And the game was interesting as well. We're going to talk about it a little bit later in the show, as well as just do a quick roundup of some of the games that happened last night, because some big results happened in the league last night. But today we're not going to be doing deep dives on the games. Instead, we're going to be talking about all-star reserves. And I think it's an interesting year for all-star reserves. I feel like oftentimes there's maybe one or two spots where you go, okay, it could be this guy or that guy, but all these other ones are locks. This year I felt like there were significantly fewer locks than typical, and a lot of guys that were on the bubble. And maybe this is the state of the NBA right now, Legs, where there's a lot of talent in the NBA, a lot of players that are really good role players, and a lot of players that are really good. I would say like second tier stars, meaning they're not superstars like we had LeBron and Steph and KD for all this time. But you have a lot of guys that are very, very good that kind of fit in that same category of second tier star. So let's start in the Eastern Conference. I have a list, you have a list, but we'll basically just go off of your list. And give me the first name of the reserves that you thought is the easiest lock to name.
The easiest lock, without question, is Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I actually had a strong case for him being voted in as a starter. Yeah. I thought the last starter spot was between Giannis and him. And, you make your argument. Giannis more dominant statistically, although Donovan Mitchell's put up 30 a night. But more wins for Cleveland. So you had this trade-off, the argument. I thought he had a really strong case for being voted a starter. He didn't get that. So since he's not a starter, he has to be the most guaranteed lock. Agreed?
I think so for sure. I mean, we talked about the East starters. We basically said there were 6, and it wasn't just, you said it was between him and Giannis. I think it was between a couple of the guys there, because those 6 guys are all in a category. I think that was pretty clear. So I agree with you that he's clearly an all-star. Is there any knock against him? Is there anything that anybody could say well, I don't know, in one direction or the other?
I think the only thing, and they're kind of turning it around right now, by the way.
3 in a row.
They're hot. And they're 7 out of 10, 3 in a row. They've now got a 7-game separation above 500, which they felt like they were just a couple games over 500 most of the year. All of a sudden you look up, they're 7 games above 500, playing some of their best basketball of the year. But I guess if there was one thing, and this is kind of, I think, what cost him, is relative to last year, what their team did, it feels disappointing, right? So, and I think so anytime, you're kind of comparing that, they're not as good as we thought, even though he's having an incredible year statistically, somebody's going to take a hit for that. It's usually the best player. So I think that was really the only argument, because I've had him, how many times have I had the Cavs? I think 4 times. Got him again tomorrow night. I mean, he'll be.
You're a Cavs expert.
Yeah, I mean, a Wednesday night, so that'll be 5 times in a very short period of time. The guy's an absolute stud. He's just an absolute stud scorer. Can be a little bit streaky with the shooting sometimes, but when you look up at the end of the day, he shoots pretty efficiently from the field. So I personally don't think there's any knock, but I think if people were making an argument, that would be it, Adam. It feels a little bit like an underachievement for their team, and that's going to be held against him. But, you can say the same thing about Milwaukee for people that vote for Giannis, I guess.
No question. Way more for Milwaukee, I would say.
Yeah.
And there's even questions for me about Giannis. I mean, we maybe talk about the Bucks a little bit later, but he's obviously injured now, and so it's going to take some of that'll be the story. But that is a team where you just talk about dispirited. I don't want to say necessarily quit, because I think that's a harsh term to say a team has quit. You really got to be confident that they've quit. But they certainly don't feel like they are inspired or were inspired, and this was prior to the injury. So if it was any other star, I think we would probably dock a lot of points for that. But, not the case with Milwaukee 18-26. I will say this about Cleveland, and we've said it all year long. They're 27-20. They're now the 5 seed. They are a game and a half back of the 3 seed Raptors. This could all end up exactly as we expected it. In fact, they could be the 2 seed legs. They're not that far behind the Boston Celtics. I don't think they will be, but they could end up being there, and it'd be hilarious if after all this huffing and puffing all year, it just goes chalk the way we predicted it in the top 3.
And we thought, we did. Cleveland, New York, Detroit. Those were the top 3. Everybody saw that, and it could end up that way, not necessarily in the same order. I predicted the Cavs were going to have the best record in the Eastern Conference because they won 4 games last year. I don't think that's happening. I think Detroit's going to have the 1 seed in the East. And New York and Cleveland could still end up 2-3. Very possible, unless Boston hangs in that mix, which has been a little bit of a surprise. So, but you're right. It could end up, when it's all said and done, the fact that Cleveland has played themselves in a position where they are now just 2 games back of the 2 seed, they could end up there as hot as they are right now. So, Mitchell, that's an easy one. That's like a no-brainer.
I think the next one is interesting. Who's the next lock? Because now you get a group of players, in my opinion, that are kind of in the same category. Where did you go with it?
I'm going Jalen Duren. He's got to be in.
Wow, he's the next lock.
Yeah.
Okay, I had him a little further down.
He's got to be in. You're 33-11, 5.5 game lead in the East. That team has clearly been the best team in the East, most consistent team in the East. And then look at the year he's had. What he's done to his game. He's only playing 28 minutes a night. He's still putting up 18 and 11 basically in only 28 minutes a night. And it's given them that legitimate big man threat that has enabled Cade Cunningham and other guys on that team to thrive. But Jalen Duren's presence in the middle, his rebounding presence, his toughness, all of that stuff, 33-11, that team has to get 2 guys. I think you just have to give that team a reward with 2 players. Jalen Duren, to me, is the next guy I would write down.
I agree about they deserve 2 All-Stars, especially when you look at the names in the Eastern Conference. It's kind of hard. There's some guys on here that I think are below like the average All-Star player. So I think it makes sense. But I will say this, he was not my next lock. I think Jalen Duren's really good, had a really great start, has had a very good year overall. But I still think if you're talking about like the 7th lock, the 5 starters and then the second guy off the bench, to me, I still think that that's a little tough. He's a good player. And I'm not trying to, he deserves obviously to be an All-Star, but I'm surprised you had him where you had him at 18 points and 11 rebounds.
Well, I broke this down into guys, like basically 4 guys I feel strongly about.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I was too. Yeah.
We already have the 5 starters. I've got 4 guys I feel strongly about.
Same.
Right, that would take us up to 9.
Yeah.
And then I got some guys that like they all having good years. I'm not saying I don't think they're having good years. I'm just saying to differentiate between these guys. To me, whatever make your argument. I'm good with any of that other group of guys I have, which is I think 6 guys for those last 3 spots. And any way you want to dice that up, I will be perfectly fine with. I just don't have an impassioned plea for any of those guys. There are 4 guys I feel strongly about. We've already talked about 2 of them. Mitchell, Jalen Duren. If you want to go to the next one, my next guy that I feel very strongly about, Scottie Barnes.
Yep, that's who I had number 2, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. And that makes sense. They've had a hell of a year, and he deserves it. I think the only thing that is going to hurt him a little bit, maybe not be you and I, because it sounds like we agree, but there are some people that are going to look at their team and go, wow, that's a pretty dramatic turnaround. If they win one more game this week, that's as many wins as last year as a team. What's changed? You added Brandon Ingram. So a lot of people might give him more credit. I personally don't, because of the all-around game of Scottie Barnes, how important his defense is, his playmaking. But you look at it and go, man, like they've matched their win total. They're just past the halfway point of the season. And Brandon Ingram is like the differentiating factor from last year's team. That could hurt him a little bit in that conversation. But I'm good with it. And then the last guy that
hold on 1 second. I want to stay on Toronto. Okay. Did you say they matched their win total? Is that a fact?
Didn't they have 30 wins last year?
Oh, I see, from last year. Okay, I got you. Yeah. Okay. 29-19, by the way, had a huge win. We're going to talk about later in the show. Had a huge win yesterday over OKC. They win 1 game this week. They've matched last year's win total. So let's say they win their next game. They'll have the same number of wins with 33 games left.
Yeah. So that's a pretty significant turnaround. And there's other guys that played great. We'll get into a little bit. We talk about the games from last night. Like Quickly's playing out of his mind right now. But they added Ingram. That was a big one. So for me, you're looking at that team, you're going, well, okay, 3rd in the East, somebody should get in, and then you start the conversation, Scottie Barnes or Brandon Ingram, and I think I can make a stronger case for Scottie Barnes.
I can too, and it is funny that you look at his numbers and they're almost identical to last year all the way across the board. Same points. Rebounds are up by about half a rebound. Assists are down by 0.2. It's just almost the exact same numbers, a little bit more efficient. But to your point, I do credit him more for what they do. He does more things. He connects more things on both ends of the floor. So for me, this one was not that tough between him and Ingram. The question is if they get another guy. That's the big question. And they might deserve it just on the story that they've been and how balanced their team is and all the different guys that contribute. But I'm with you. Barnes was my 2nd pick. Duren was my 4th, but I was with you that I had a top 4, and I'm curious if we had the same top 4.
I think the 4th guy for me, and it's a shame because their season hasn't really gone as expected, but I'm going with Jalen Johnson.
That's who I had as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand it. People want to, because look, as people know, I do tend to reward winning when it comes to these selections, right? Especially when you're like kind of deciding between 2 guys. And look, if there's only a 1 or 2 game separation, then it gets even harder. But if there's like you got a 6-7 game separation in wins and 2 guys are very similar in terms of their argument, I'll tend to lead with the team that's got 6-7 more wins. They're what, 3 games under 500?
And it's been horrible over the last month and a half.
Selling point, you know what I mean? And you look at since the Trae Young trade, if he rattles off 5-6 wins in a row, Jalen Johnson, and he's got 3 triple-doubles, and, it's a lot easier to make this sell. But I just look at the totality of his year, man. The guy's averaging like 23, 10, and 8. Yeah. He's been spectacular. And he's been so steady, even though he's very young and it hasn't translated to, hey, this is your team. Now go get us some wins. Maybe it's the roster construction. He's young. They're just not good enough, whatever it may be. That I understand if some people find like that's a tough sell when you're 3 games under 500. I get it. But for me, he deserves it. I feel strongly about it. Those are my 4 guys. Duren, Jalen Johnson, Donovan Mitchell, and Scottie Barnes are the 4 guys I think are next. Along with the 5 starters, that's 9. Yep. Now it's when it gets interesting.
I think Jalen Johnson, so my order was Mitchell, Barnes, Johnson, Duren. Same 4, different order. But here's the thing with Jalen Johnson. When I watch him play, there are some guys that put up big stats and you question the overall impact. And I'll use an example here because this is not a negative thing. The stats are so crazy that to say that the stats maybe are a little misleading is not a knock. And the guy I think of is like Josh Giddey, who I think is a great player. Yeah. Puts up a near triple-double, and you think, okay, well, is he that great? Maybe, maybe not. Jalen Johnson, when I watch him play, I think he plays winning basketball. And it's hard to square this that I think he plays winning basketball on a team that doesn't win. This is the first year he'll be an all-star. I think there's probably more to come. And I'm curious just to watch it unfold because when I watch him, he does the dirty stuff. He grabs loose balls, he defends, he rotates, he passes, he gets into the paint, he plays in transition. He does everything that I think is winning basketball. It just doesn't translate. But I will be shocked and very saddened if in the coming years he continues to put up good stats on teams that perform like this. All right, let's go to the next ones here. So we have 9 guys. We have to pick 3 more, and I'm with you. This is where it got tough. What's the pool, or where do you want to go?
I got 6 guys left listed. Two of those 6 I feel a little bit stronger about. So
okay,
I'm going to go ahead and give spots 10 and 11 to these 2 guys.
Okay,
even though the other 4 names, I'd have no problem if somebody got super heated and they wanted to make an argument for one of those guys. I'm not going to fight that hard. Is what I'm saying. I'm not falling on this grenade.
Yeah.
These guys on the team is what I'm saying to you. But This would be where I would lean. The first one would be Karl-Anthony Towns.
Okay.
All right. You agree? You want him?
I have him. So I have a list of 3 in the next tier, and he was one of them. So yes.
Yeah. I mean, I understand there's been some up and down with him this year. And if it always feels like when the narrative about Karl-Anthony Towns comes up, it always feels like there's just people are unfulfilled with what Karl-Anthony Towns is supposed to be. Yeah. And I just say to myself, you think it's easy, like being a big guy, like playing on a team with a guy that handles the ball and has the usage rate of Jalen Brunson. And it's not easy to do to make yourself consistently good offensively every night. I get some of the frustration with him. Guy rebounds, man, his tail off every night. He is a big-time rebounder. He's a dual threat offensively. He can beat you up physically with his size, or he can step out and shoot the ball. I think he's a really good compliment to Brunson. I think whatever's changed with Mike Brown and his system has had an effect on him mentally. I think there are times he kind of succumbs to that.
Yes, he
does. A little bit. I don't know what the word is. I know if you think he's getting a little bit mopey or whatever. Yeah. And maybe that affects his energy level. I think that's fair. But I think the guy overall, his talent and his consistent production every night. And, this is a team that's sitting there at New York Knicks are 4th place. They are 1 game out of 2. I'm giving Karl-Anthony Towns a spot.
I have him on here too. But to be honest with you, all the things you just said to me, everybody weighs all-star, this type of stuff a little bit differently. If you just look at, impact player or this or that, I think he's a lot easier. The fact that the team has struggled, and he has been, I mean, again, mopey or whatever you want to say, he has been discontent, and it shows. But I think your first point is really important, that it is underappreciated how hard it is to be the second star when your first star has the amount of impact that a Jalen Brunson has, how difficult it is to fit around him. I also think it's weird because, Karl-Anthony Towns is the guy that, as everybody talks about in trade talks when they talk about the Knicks, which is always weird when you have a player like that. I don't think it factors in to whether he deserves it or not. I had him in here, but more than anything, Legs, this highlights how weak I would say the pool of players is in the Eastern Conference. Because in the West, I feel like it was a lot tougher. When you got down to the end, I feel like the players were much more deserving, whereas this one I say, nobody's beating him out. I had him in this tier too, though. You had one other guy? I think I know who it is.
Yeah. You think you know?
Let's see.
Well, I'm going down to Miami for this one. How about that?
Oh, wow, you surprised me. This was my next, my 12th pick, but okay.
But I'm curious. I think the vote on that team could be split. I'm going with Norman Powell.
Yeah, that's who I had as well.
I think some people would make the argument if you're going to take a guy off the Heat and they're 3 games over 500. They had a pretty hot start. They were almost unguardable beginning of the year. They've kind of leveled off. They're basically a 500-ish type team. They're probably going to win. They'll probably be like 43-39 when it's all said and done. 44-38, like something like that. And some people would make the argument for Bam because his defense. But Norman Powell's a good defender too. But it's like the all-around presence of Bam Adebayo and the number of things he does to help you win. Norman Powell mainly really a scorer, but they desperately needed it. I didn't like their roster at all going into the year. Norman Powell's giving them some juice and some energy to their offense. That's why I'm going to reward him, doing exactly basically what he did for the Clippers last year. And so if the Heat are going to get a guy in sitting there in the 7th spot, Norman Powell for me would be a slight nod over Bam, but I think some people would make the argument for Bam. And again, I wouldn't fight too hard on that argument.
Has a player ever been a first-time All-Star at age 32? Almost age 33, by the way.
That's a great question.
Has anybody ever set a career high in their age 32 season? That's exactly what he's doing right now at 23 points a game. And that was after, by the way, last year, 21.8 was a career high. So it's not like, he's beating a career high from a long time ago. He's peaking late in his career, which is just wild. But I'm with you. I had him on my list as well as a guy to make it. Now, I will say, this does to me, like Norman Powell, great story. There are some years, I do think this is one we'll look back on and say, okay, he was an all-star. That shows you that the East was a little depleted this year. But nonetheless, he's having a great year. I think it's easily him over Bam. I didn't have a hard time going between those two guys.
Okay.
Now you have to make one last selection, though, in the East. And this one's hard. I think this is where it gets really, really tricky. Give me the candidates real quick.
All right, I have 4 guys. Do you have 4? How many do you have left?
4. I have 4 left as well.
Okay, if we match these up, this is amazing because, folks, Adam and I didn't discuss this at all.
We did not.
We said, obviously we talked about what the topic would be. We did not share our picks, and so far, we got the same 9.
Just different order. Yeah, a little different order.
Right? We got the 5 starters. I'm sorry, we got the same 11.
Yeah.
1 spot left. The 4 guys I'd be picking from: Bam Adebayo, Pascal Siakam, Michael Porter Jr., and Evan Mobley.
Okay, so we only have 2 of the 4. Okay.
Who are the 2 that you agree with?
Siakam and who did you say?
Michael
Porter Jr. Yep. And then I put on there Desmond Bane. I had Giddey's probably missed too much time, but I had him on my list.
Giddey would have been. I mean, I probably would have made a really strong argument for Giddey if he didn't have that injury recently.
Okay.
I think that hurt him. But
I will say Bane and Giddey were were the first cuts of this group, though.
Okay. All right. So, again, I want everybody to understand something. You're not going to get any resistance out of me if you disagree with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Of these 4 or another name, if you want to throw another name out, maybe I'll have a little bit of an argument there because I didn't have on my list. But I'm telling you, man, I'm not too impassioned about any of this. You look at guys like Michael Porter Jr. and Siakam, to me, they're in exactly the same boat. Exactly the same boat.
Yeah.
They have 23 wins combined, those 2 teams. And they're putting up pretty similar numbers when you think about it. So take your pick. I mean, who do you want to vote for? So for me, in the eyeball test, Michael Porter Jr. has had an incredible year. He's a big time offensive talent that he finally got to be the guy, and he's shown you what he could do with that. But when I watch those 2 teams play,
I agree.
It jumps out more to me.
Yeah.
The energy, effort, determination that Siakam plays with. It just jumps out more to me. Maybe it's just more of a respect and appreciation there. So if I had to pick one out of that group, it would probably be Siakam. But again, make your case for any of those guys or somebody else on it. I'm not going to fight you on it, man. Have at it.
This is exactly how I went with it. Siakam over Michael Porter Jr. And the knock on Michael Porter Jr. is, yes, he's scoring, but look at how bad the team is. We knew they were going to be bad, but how do you reward that? It's even worse for Indiana, but when you watch him, Pascal Siakam does do a lot more. I think that's like indisputable. And it's also, by the way, not that great of a difference in the scoring. Basically a 1.5 per game that Michael Porter's getting.
And like, what are the rebounding numbers are so similar. I looked this up last night. Michael Porter 7.3. Yeah. Siakam is like right in the same wheelhouse basically. So, the shooting percentages are like there. Yes, 7 rebounds for Siakam, 4 assists for Siakam, 48% and 38% are his shooting splits. Yeah. It's just so close, and both teams have basically the same number of wins, 12 and 11. So, again, man, nobody get upset out there. Okay, it's not worth getting upset in this part of the argument. Okay.
This is actually true. A lot of times we're getting guys, it feels like the legacies are on the line. I don't think the legacy of Norman Powell is on the line, on any of this. And that's part of why I think it feels the way it feels right now is we're talking about guys that are probably going to be one-time All-Stars. And, I will
say this. So it sounds like to me, and look, he didn't make necessarily my cut either, but it's like, why are we so dismissive of Evan Mobley? And I say that for this reason. I just did 3 games in a row of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so I got to see a lot of Evan Mobley, and the defensive game that he had against Charlotte last Wednesday on a night when we put Charlotte on the national schedule because they were starting to play really good. They had just beaten Oklahoma City on the road. They smoked Minnesota. They beat the Lakers. And you're looking at him, you're going, okay, let's put them on pride. And of course they come out and then they have like 26 points practically at halftime. They just had one of those nights. But a big reason for that, Evan Mobley was as good defensively in that game for a big as any big I've seen this year in any game. And it made me sit there and go, man, oh man, it's much more than the numbers with Evan Mobley. Yeah. It's much more than that, man. The guy's a defensive player of the year for a reason. How much he impacts the game without filling up the stat sheet for stretches of the game was so eye-opening to me. But yet he's getting absolutely no conversation for the All-Star team. And his numbers are, maybe it's because people wanted him to take a leap this year. He didn't. His numbers, almost stagnant, really, from a year ago. But I'm telling you, I just look at this guy and what he does. He's 18 and a half last year. He's 18 this year. Last year, 9.3 rebounds. This year, 8.8. Feels like he dropped down. 55% from the field, 51% this year. 37 from the 3 last year, 30 this year. So everything just like a slight tick down. So now it's just, okay, we dismiss him. Even though they're hot, they're 7 games above 500, and he's so impactful defensively, more than any of the guys we mentioned. Yeah. And yet we didn't even give him consideration. I just found it interesting.
I think, one, defensive impact gets probably diminished more than offensive impact, just when we're talking about All-Stars in most people's mind. I think, 2, the fact that they were in the standing. It's funny that we just talked about them being 5th, but for most of the year, they were 7th, 8th, 9th. And so I think that plays a factor into it, even though we're only talking about 1 or 2 game different in the standings, and we're like weighing that pretty heavily. But I think more than anything, when you're a young player, especially on a team that's like up and coming, your flaws are diminished and your upside is augmented. It's like, well, look at all the things he can do, and in the future, he's going to plug the holes. The older he gets, he still has these weaknesses in his game that I think that you almost focus more on those things than you do on the things that he actually can do the older you get. Fair or not? But to your point, it will look silly if here in 2 weeks when we get to the All-Star game, the Cavs are the 3 seed, and now we're talking about, well, Mobley probably should have been it. It's entirely possible. All right, let's take a break. The East was relatively okay, not so controversial. The West I feel a little bit more impassioned about, and there are guys getting cut in the West that I actually feel bad for, unlike in the East. We'll get to that on the other side. Guys, there's one final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're in on it. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over, and football is officially done. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com/AllCity to get started. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. I also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. You know that moment? The one where you realize you left your favorite pair of sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away? Well, I've been there too, but you found Shady Rays, and they've completely changed the game. I love this business model. You think about sunglasses, they're very easy to break, very easy to lose, and so they're like a difficult thing to purchase. Well, they have sunglasses that have your back because they're seriously good looking. They have a wide variety, polarized, durable, not stupidly expensive. But the best part is if you lose or break them, even on day one, which is often the case with sunglasses, you lose or break them, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. So now you can actually wear your sunglasses without fear on hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, back here, segment 2, All-NBA show. Me and Tim Legler. We're doing it early this morning, earlier than usual, but we will be back at our regular time on Wednesday as we break down. There's a great slate of games on Tuesday night, so that should be a fantastic show. We're picking all-star reserves. Let's go to the Western Conference, and let's do the same thing. Give me the first guy that you think was the easiest lock. I think there was one obvious pick.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, right? And I already saw somebody over here saying, "Oh, please don't put Anthony Edwards on your reserves because they lost 5 in a row." Come on, man. Come on.
the recency bias of what happened this week.
He had a strong argument to be a starter.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people voted him to be a starter. So that's, to me, clearly obvious. It's got to be Anthony Edwards. And actually, I think there's
another one too.
There's several on here that are obvious to me. But
I think only 2 that are completely obvious. Anthony Edwards, who would have been a starter for me. I think when we did this, I had him as a starter. And then Kevin Durant, who, when you watch the Houston Rockets, really over the last month, he's holding them up. Well, he is the guy that is doing all of the scoring for them. I think those 2 guys are the 2 guys that are for me.
I got a few more beyond that, but I'll go with those 2 for sure. Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant. Yeah, so we both agree on those. Had to be on stone cold locks. Takes us to 7. Of course, the starters remind people: Jokic, SGA, Wemby, Luka, and Curry are your starters. So
I would have had Ant over Curry personally.
Borderline starter, Kevin Durant. Yes, those 2 guys have to be on.
Yeah, and to me, I'm so surprised by it because that's the cutoff for me. Like that's where I feel good about. Okay, there's a drop off for the next guys, but I do think both Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant are having fantastic seasons. To your point, I do think there's the recency bias of this Wolves slide, which we're going to talk about here at the end of the show because I got to get your take on what's going on with them. All right, after that, though, I think it gets interesting. You think there's more locks? How many more locks?
Well, let's just go one at a time because I'm going to, as I'm talking, I'm going to be deciding if it's a lock or not. This next guy is absolutely a lock in my mind. I'm going to be devastated if he doesn't make it. He needs to be on the team. It's Jamal Murray. Murray, I can't believe you're not saying he's a lock.
Hey, man, I'm glad you are.
Is that what it is? You're just worried people are going to come at you, man, because you act like a homer? Come on, man.
I don't think he's a lock, though. I think there's a lot of good players in the West, but I do. For me, he would easily or comfortably be on my ballot. But I think there's some guys that means they get cut out that are also having good years.
Dude, they're 31 and 15.
Yeah.
Third in a loaded West.
Yeah.
26 and 7. No, man. And look at the winning they did without Jokic. No, Jamal Murray has to be an all-star this year.
Yeah, I agree.
That is a sword I'll fall on, man. He's got to be on the team.
To your point, and I've watched him his entire career, every single game. He has never, one of the biggest knock on him is that he is not able to carry the team in Jokic's absence. Typically, Jokic doesn't miss games very often. So typically this just means when Jokic goes to the bench and then you bring on your second star and say it's your team now. And he has not been able to hold them up. This year, he has really held them up. in Jokic's extended absence, as well as just throughout the, even when Jokic was healthy, he was having an all-star caliber year. When Jokic went down, to me, I thought, okay, here's the big test, because I think the Nuggets are going to fall apart. We've seen them fall apart every time he's missed games before, but that has not been the case. He has played his best basketball since Jokic has gone down. He's putting a lot into it, so much legs that I'm actually worried about his rest going into the playoffs. We have a long time for that, but I do think that'll be a storyline. But he's been fantastic. This is by far the best version of himself. This is not a slight increase on previous years. It's a major one.
I know what you're doing, and it's okay. It's that reverse psychology thing. You don't want to go out on a limb for this because you're worried it's going to jinx it.
I love that you're saying this.
You know damn well in your heart you think he's a lock for the All-Star team, so stop it right now.
Hey, man, I love that you have this because it makes me feel like he's actually going to get in this year, which I think he will.
He's making it. I'm going out on a limb right now. Jamal Murray will be an All-Star this year.
Boom. I love it. Okay, who's next?
Next, I got to go to one of the surprise teams and their best player, and I think Devin Booker needs to be on the team.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. You don't think so? You're not going to put Booker on this team?
He was one of the guys on the bubble for me, and I feel bad. Suns fans are going to hate me for this because I love the Suns story. It's been a great story so far, 27-19, but he was on the bubble.
Man, nobody saw them 27-19, 46 games in. And look, I know Dylan Brooks has been great. He's been unbelievable. Yeah. Colin Gillespie's gotten a lot of love with his story. None of that stuff is happening without the offensive greatness of Devin Booker and how much attention he commands, how much defenses shift to him, how much you have to pay attention to him. It's crazy because he doesn't go off. Like, he's not putting up 40 and 45-point nights some nights. And, you go to look at the box scores the next day when you didn't see the games. And, it's like, oh, my God. You get those with some of these other guys. Like, Anthony Edwards all of a sudden has a, 50-point game. And you're like, wow. Booker doesn't really do that. But he's got 25 on the season, and it's so steady, man. Every night right there between 20 and 30. And every now and then mix in the low 30s type game. The consistency that he plays with and how much he allows guys to have the years they're having, Colin Gillespie and Dylan Brooks and right on down the line, Grayson Allen at times. It's all because of Devin Booker. And they're a surprise team, 8 games above 500. They wouldn't even be in the play-in right now. They'd be above the play-in. Wow, that's incredible to me. I'm putting Booker on. It
is weird, though, don't you think, that he hasn't been an all-star, since 2024. Yeah. He was not an all-star in 2023, and his numbers are actually down from all those seasons. So in the years when he hasn't made it, his numbers are down. But to your point, team winning is up. They are a surprise 6 seed. They have been a great story. I had him on my bubble. I'm curious. Let me know in the comments, whether you're watching live or in the comments below, because I'm curious if people have him as high as Legs has him or as low as I have him, which is to say on the bubble, in the conversation. Wouldn't be crazy if he got in, but he wouldn't have been my next pick.
And people are talking about his injury. I mean, they're talking about reevaluating him in a week. The game is 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he could play. We don't know.
We're not factoring that in. Yeah,
and we didn't even talk about that, by the way, in the Eastern Conference because Giannis is going to be out.
Right. Yep.
And so somebody's going to get on. And also, by the way, the international component is going to play into this.
We're going to get to that in a second. Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second.
So that's going to affect all of this. This is really just us just completely subjectively looking at who's had the years that deserve to be on the team. Let the league sort out all that stuff with international player, American player, injuries and all that. We're just going by who deserves to be on. Yep. I think Devin Booker needs to be on that team.
All right, let's see the next one. What do you have? Who's the next lock?
One a second.
Or the next guy on your list, I should say. I have one guy that I feel kind of strongly about that you haven't mentioned yet.
So where are we at? Murray.
And KD.
I put Edwards,
Murray.
KD, and Booker.
Yeah.
Right?
And Murray.
And Murray. That's 4. So that's 9 total. 9 total players. We have 3 more spots. And I feel pretty strongly about giving one of those spots to Deni Avdija.
Okay. I had him on my list as well.
Yeah. And look, I know that, you look at them and you go, okay, what are they, 500 right now?
23 and 23, yeah.
Right. They're 500. But, hey, 500, I think, is moving this thing in the right direction. Plus, look at, even the turmoil they had at the start of the year with everything went on with Chauncey Billups and that, that kind of hit them out of nowhere. You got an interim coach coaching the team. And yet he is, man, I'm actually blown away by how much better of an offensive player Deni Avdija is right now than he was 2 years ago. It's incredible. And he's like basically like flirts with triple doubles most nights, and not like the 13-point kind, like the 25 to 30 point type of triple doubles he flirts with a lot of nights. He's turned into just a stud offensively in this league, and I think he deserves to be there because I think Portland actually, for me, is overachieved at 23 and 23. That's an overachievement to be 500 for them.
I'm curious if he is going to get in as comfortably as everybody else suggests. And then I'm also curious, to me, him and Jamal Murray are similar sort of in what they're doing. And both of them are like the last couple guys. I had him on. Murray and Avdija were my last picks here, but I had them both on. He has been fantastic. The record is actually pretty good given what the expectation was. So I'm good with everything there. So now you have 2 picks. You have 2 people left.
And this is where it got really, really difficult. And I think you're going to disagree with me on a guy right now. Okay. First major disagreement. I got to put Kawhi Leonard on there.
Man, he was the toughest one for me. I ended up not putting him on, but he was the toughest one, and I think he probably deserves it on talent and production. But I couldn't do it based on how the season started.
I hear you, man. But who's hotter now?
I mean, now nobody, literally nobody in the NBA.
Like this week, it's not like they have a 3-game winning streak. This team, to remind people what's going on with this team, they were 6 and 21. They've gone 15 and 3 in their last 18 games. And Kawhi Leonard, James Harden's had a great year too. Amazing. Like his numbers have been unbelievable. Kawhi Leonard is the difference with that team when he's healthy and playing like this. You see what they're capable of, man. And like they're really a super interesting team now in the Western Conference because mainly of Kawhi Leonard. He's been too consistently good. I know he was hurt to start the year. They were really bad to start the year, but it's been going on now for like 5 to 6 weeks. What's happening with this team? This isn't like just happened. That's a long time to play this well, and he's been unbelievable during that stretch. 28 points a game. I think Kawhi Leonard needs to be on the team.
I think he probably belongs.
Come on,
no, it's just the record. It's just the hard part for me is how the season started. You know how terrible it was, and then the overall record. And you'll see, I rewarded winning on my list here. I will say, and this might be controversial, I'll let you know right now, I do not have LeBron James on my ballot. And it came down to me, like Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James were like the last 2 I was looking at, trying to see if one would move in. And I decided there's no way you could put LeBron in if you didn't have Kawhi. So then it became just Kawhi on my bubble. That was the only guy that I had on my bubble. And I ended up rewarding winning a little bit more with my pick. So I did not have them. You have one last spot to give then. I have 2, but you have one last one. Who gets it?
This was really tough. But I'm going to go with Şengün.
Okay.
I'm going
he made it on my ballot, but he was lower than the other guy I picked.
And look, and again, now you get down to these last couple, and because I said the same thing in the East, like I get down to these last 2 guys, like Kawhi Leonard and Şengün, and this next, I have 1, 2, 3, I have 5 more guys written down. And if you want to lump them in with those 5 and make an argument for one of the 5 guys I'm going to mention in a second, I'm not going to fight you too hard on it. Yeah. I'm not. So people don't be flipping out. If you have one of these next 5 guys I'm about to mention instead of Kawhi or instead of Şengün, but I just think both of those guys deserve to be there. Houston's a contender in the Western Conference. Şengün, just with what he does every night across the board with his versatility. Here's the other thing that differentiates him from a couple of guys that are in this next group of 5, Şengün I'm talking about, and Kawhi falls in this category too. When you're a guy that the offense runs through for stretches, rather than kind of somebody else on the, and I know they have Kevin Durant, but look at the possession breakdown. Şengün has just as many possessions where they initiate to him and let him go be the guy that sets the table. And if he doesn't get double teams, he scores. If he does, make a play. So it's like they kind of share that role. Şengün, for me, that's what separates him from some other guys on this list when I'm talking about that last spot. And that's what I went with. And his numbers are just great every night across the board and versatile. And that team has a legit shot, to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Şengün, I think, is my last guy in. Like
All
he was the number 12th guy, but I do put him on there. I will say this, that his numbers are not necessarily career numbers. They're pretty much in line with 2 seasons ago, or some combination of 2 seasons ago and last season. And that was part of what was difficult for me on this one. And then the Rockets, 4 seeds, so they've been pretty good. I expected a little bit more out of him, to be honest, this year. I kind of wondered if it would go back, if this would be Şengün's team this year and KD fits around it. It hasn't quite worked out that way. I think KD's clearly their best player. But nonetheless, he gets in. The guy you didn't have was Chet Holmgren. Yep. And here's the thing, man, and this comes down to the Kawhi part of it. I think Kawhi is the better player and is probably having the better season. But the West is all about winning. Like the West is so hard to win in. And when your team is 5 games ahead of everyone else in the Western Conference, you have the number 1 defense by as much as you have. I feel like the Oklahoma City Thunder deserve a second. When they're the reigning champs, they deserve a second guy, and it clearly would be Chet. And that really was all the calculation I put into this. Is I think Chet's good enough to be an all-star, and that team is so dominant that they deserve a second guy. So Chet made it in, not Booker, and that's where the only difference we had.
I completely agree with you. And that's why, honestly, I kind of feel like Chet is going to get in. This is picked by the coaches.
Yeah.
I think Chet Holmgren is most likely to get in because of the team's success. Even if it's, they've cooled off.
Yeah.
They look unbeatable, 25 games into the season. You're like, well, go ahead, plan the parade. It's a repeat. And now you look up, they got 10 losses. I mean, they piled up kind of quickly, and they've had a lot of guys out. That's why Chet will get in, and that's why people, like I said, I have no problem if it is Chet Holmgren. To me, it's going to come down to Chet Holmgren because I think Booker gets in. I just think Murray, Durant, Booker, Edwards get in. It's going to come down then. If Chet gets on that team, he's going to have to bump either Avdija, Kawhi, or Şengün. And I think most likely he will. Because the Clippers, you're right, despite the fact that they're 15-3 in their last 18, their record is what it is. I mean, overall, because of the start they had, and he missed time, he's still only got, I think, 32 games in. Some people might look at that and say, you know what, that's not enough games. And he might get bumped. Avdija, same thing. It's a 500 team. And, I don't think people are going to freak out if he doesn't make it. And so that might influence some of the coaches' thinking. Wow. And then you got Şengün, who very deserving. To me, I guess that's where it comes down, sort of a coin toss type situation between Holmgren and Şengün. Well, you might think it's not. You might think it's more Chet and Kawhi.
Right.
Which you might be right. But I just think Kawhi's just efficient dominance, man. He's got a chance to be 50, 40, 90 this year.
Well, yeah. Yep. I mean, Kawhi, to me, if you were just doing on talent and performance so far, I think he would be a lock to do it. It's just the team part of this. And by the way, where's the All-Star game played this year? In LA at the Intuit Dome, home of the Clippers, which is kind of an interesting storyline there. Obviously, all the controversy as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how the league handles it. But Legs, he might get in anyway because we might not have 24 All-Stars this year. I think we're going to have 25. Yeah. And not even just because Giannis and, replacements for injuries. Because here's how it works. You pick 12 from the East, 12 from the West, but then you have to create 3 teams of 8 or more, 1 world team, 2 USA teams. And if we just run through the list real quick, we have 9 international All-Stars. The starters, which are Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Shea, Wemby. By the way, 4 of the top 6 players in the NBA this year, maybe 4 of the top 5. And then off the bench, we agreed that we had Siakam, Şengün, Murray, and Avdija. So that's 9, which means that we did not have enough USA players to fill 2 rosters. And so there might be a Kawhi that gets in just because we need a 25th guy before replacements. But if you just look at this, Legs, if you break up Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Shea, Wemby, that's your starters. And then Avdija, Murray, Şengün, Siakam off the bench. That's such a dominant roster when you compare it to what Team USA will have. I made fake Team USA ones. Last year they did young guys and old guys. If you did that same thing this year, you would get a team of Steph, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Kawhi, Karl-Anthony Towns. Good, but not nearly as good as that world team with Powell, LeBron off of the bench. And then if you go to the other side, Brunson, Maxey, Cade, Ant, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Duren, Barnes, Chet, just that team world. The point is that team world is so much better than anything you can envision the Team USA putting out there. And there's no size on Team USA. Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Duren, that's it.
How about You want to have some fun. I mean, imagine, what a lot of people still consider the greatest basketball team ever assembled, the 92 Dream Team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people view that in that way. And look, I know there were some guys on that team that were legendary players that were kind of older.
Right.
They weren't in their peak, prime years.
But as far as name, yeah.
I'll tell you what, you're talking about a team with Wemby, Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the same team.
Yeah.
Giannis, like if he were healthy, man, oh man, like that might be a fun game. But all right, so
Luka's the fifth guy on that lineup, which is crazy.
That leaves us with a few names. We have to give credit to these guys because any of these guys could make an argument and then maybe they get in. I don't know how the coaches are going to choose this. We already talked about Chet. So I think there's like 4 other guys we have to talk about.
Okay.
All right. I think we had to talk about LeBron. I think LeBron James has an argument. And I'm curious to see how this plays out. I think he finished like 8th in voting, which was surprising. I think, because fans were 50% of that and media and players, and he ends up 8th voting, which is obviously probably the worst he's ever finished in that regard. How do the coaches feel about him though? And, the Lakers are still sitting there, as much as like, it seems like you're constantly beating up the Lakers all the time for flat performances. They are 10 games over 500 and they've missed Austin Reeves, who, by the way, if he had stayed healthy, would have been in this conversation. Austin Reeves has been out all this time and they're still 10 games over 500 and LeBron James having a pretty damn good year. I think some people will consider him. And then I think Julius Randle is a guy that you got to look at least, man. The guy puts up big numbers for that team. Yeah. And, they probably maybe 8 games over 500, not good enough, feels like an underachievement. So maybe he doesn't get any talk. And then I think San Antonio, the year they've had,
De'Aaron Fox.
But here's the thing, De'Aaron Fox still puts up numbers. I don't think he's had a great year. He's still very good in the fourth quarter. And then Stephon Castle is like a guy that, like, with everything that he does and his defense thrown in there too, and just his physical presence on the game, all of those guys I just wanted to mention, I don't necessarily think any of them get in. I think the most likely of that group would be LeBron. Yeah. But I don't know that any of them get in. I think it comes down to the guys we said, and then Chet fighting it out for the last spot with whoever you want to put in there, Şengün, Kawhi, Avdija, Booker, whoever you think, and Chet. So I think there's 13 for 12 spots. And, of course, injuries will change some of this. I got a suggestion, though. So we don't have to worry so often every year about 3-4 guys that people act like you're snubbing because you didn't put him in the top 12. It's so ridiculous to me. You're still praising these guys.
Yeah.
But you got to draw the line somewhere. You got to make a pick, right? No one's disregarding or slandering these guys. It's tough, right? How about we do this? Since we're going to go to this format where it's not just 2 teams playing each other, why don't we just go with 32 guys, 4 teams of 8, and do a round-robin tournament, semifinals, and then championship. I mean, just do that. It's basically what we're doing now.
I know. It is basically what we're doing.
Basically what they're doing, but then you get more guys in. 16 guys per conference, 2 teams of 8. How you divide it up, I don't know. That's another conversation. And then you just do a round-robin tournament. Boom, there you go.
I don't know if there's any. I've done this for like 10 years, how to fix All-Star Weekend. There might not be any fixing to it, to be honest.
Well, fixing is in terms of roster selection. Maybe that's a suggestion. There is no fixing the game itself because of the lack of regard.
Wemby says he's going to play hard. Wemby's going to try to.
Who said that?
Wemby. He said Wemby said he's going to bring it. He was going to try to elevate it, maybe try to get the guys going. We'll see if it works.
Well, you know what that reminds me of? Like every year in training camp, there'd be guys that were like undrafted free agents trying to make the team.
Yeah.
And then you would do like this drill we used to do every basketball practice, like the zigzag drill where you go one-on-one, like, up the floor and the guy's got to slide, cut you off, slide, cut you off. And then at half court, you play live. And then there would be this one, everybody, 2 vets would match up. So you're going at the right appropriate pace. Nobody's trying to make anybody work too hard out here.
Right.
And then you get the one guy trying to make the team and he's going 100 miles an hour in that drill. And some veteran will be yelling at him. Like, dude, slow down. Like, we're just trying to get warm here. Like, that's kind of what Wemby's going to look like if he decides to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, do you think Wemby, who do you think is going to be the All-Star Game MVP this year?
Man, that's a good question. The MVP, huh? I could see it being Wemby. I mean, if he's going as hard as he can, I could easily see it being him. Who else is on the list here to be that kind of guy? I don't know. Maxey has some speed to him. Anthony Edwards, I could see. I don't know. I guess Wemby is like the favorite, I would say. The only guy that's going to try.
You might get like a Brunson.
Nah, I don't see it, man. He needs
So
the ball
you
too
think
much.
it's definitely going to come from the international team?
Well, I think they're going to win it. So
Yeah.
I didn't mean the talent disparity is so high.
I don't think it'll be Jokic. He doesn't seem like he's got a strong affinity for these games.
Not at all, man. Not
Which
at all.
I don't blame him, man. It's not really a big man's game.
I
He's
do.
more like a guard.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I wish he'd go out there and try some like just fun passes and stuff. That's the thing I wish. But I'll tell you what, if he gets Jamal Murray out there, I do wonder if that would change something for him. You know, he's coming off injury, by the way. He's not playing right now, and he might, if he gets back, it'll be right before the All-Star game, so he may or may not participate very heavily. But I do wonder if him and Jamal, first time sharing the court, and he goes, you know what? I'll run some two-man game here and try to get Jamal going.
And we say that going in, but then, you know, Luka could take 8 straight shots to start the game. Okay, so
that's true. Luka in LA, maybe.
You know how these things go, and it used to be. I mean, the format's changed. So I don't know if that's the case anymore, but it used to be literally right. The All-Star game would start, and like everybody's just jacking shots, and like so, but somebody would get hot.
Yeah,
and so by like literally most years, by middle of the second quarter, you could identify. All right, one of these 3 guys is going to win MVP because they're hot early and they're going for it now. Yeah. And the field shrinks. So, this is different format because you got to play multiple games and they're short games. So I don't know how that part of it plays in, but that's typically what happens. And I can see a guy like Luka coming out and just, like I said, Luka's the only guy in the league that has a heat check the first possession. Like he's the only guy in the league that's kind of in that category. He might come out and hit his first 5-6 shots. And next thing you know, it's going to be Luka's night. I don't know.
Let's get some quick hitters to get out of here, Legs. You called a game. This weekend in the NBA was weird because it had a lot to do with cancellations of games. But you caught one that was not canceled. The Chicago Bulls beating the Boston Celtics 114-111. What's your quick hitter take on this game?
First of all, it was one of the best games I've watched this year. I was glad we ended up getting a game to call that had. It actually had an iconic Mike Breen bang right at the end of the game. This is all you're going for. Kevin Huerter. With the corner 3, 0.2 of a second left in the game to win the game. So we got the iconic Mike Breen bang, Derrick Rose's night. But I think what it just impressed me, like, number one, Bulls win the game. And it's like, Giddey makes a massive difference now that he's back with the way the ball hops. It makes a massive difference. They've had other guys play really, really well, and you saw the depth of their rotation and number of guys that played well in this game. By the way, real quick note on the game before we get out of here. I asked a researcher to look this up before the game because there's a guy that plays for the Bulls, and I want to get this list right. So give me 1 second. There's a guy that plays for the Bulls that's in pretty gaudy statistical area, and I wanted to see exactly where he's going to finish if you just kind of extrapolate out. He plays 2-3 more years based on current production and stays healthy. I think it's reasonable. He's going to end up with over 20,000 points and 12,000 rebounds. And I'm talking about Vucevic. Okay. Do you realize if he gets to 20,000 points and 12,000 rebounds, and both of those things are absolutely within reach? Let me give you the list of the other guys that have scored 20,000 points and grabbed 12,000 rebounds in NBA history. Bob Pettit, Robert Parrish, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, Moses Malone, Karl Malone, Elvin Hayes, Artis Gilmore, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Wilt Chamberlain, Walt Bellamy, Charles Barkley, and Kareem.
It's a short list of Hall of Famers.
I mean, just all-time legendary names. And Vucevic, and look, I'm not saying he's in that category, but I'm just talking about this guy's been producing for a long time. And he did it again on Saturday night. He was impressive. He just does what he wants offensively to most guys. Really entertaining game. One last point. The Boston Celtics showed me something in that game. The night before, they were in Brooklyn, played a double overtime game.
Yeah. That
they had a 10-point lead late, coughed it up. Then it looked like they were out of the game, down 5 with 12 seconds to go in overtime, tie it, go to second overtime, win the game, traveled to Chicago, got in at 4:30 in the morning. So now we're sitting down with Joe Mazzulla before the game, and I'm expecting to hear this guy's out, this guy's out, this guy's resting. Nobody rest. Nobody sat. Nobody sat. The whole team played. And Jaylen Brown was great, but it showed me a lot about just kind of their approach, how much fun Joe Mazzulla's having coaching this team and getting this out of this group, how surprising it's been. they put up a great battle, but ultimately Chicago made the plays late and they win the game.
I love it. They are tough. I always talk about it, man. They are going to be tougher than you, and that's one box they get to check no matter what happens. Quick hitter on these other games. Raptors beat the Thunder last night, 103-101. It was a great game. It was a great finish. But the big takeaway here is the Raptors went 4-1 on a 5-game road trip out west, Legs. They got big wins over Oklahoma City and at Golden State and Sacramento and Portland. The only loss on the road trip was at the Lakers. The Raptors, 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, just went on. This was like a prove it road trip. They proved it, 4-1. What do you make of it?
They're red hot. I'm going to give a shout out to Isaiah quickly in the 4-game winning streak, 25.3 points per game, 62% from the 3 during the 4-game winning streak. The guy is on another level as far as a heater goes. So that was my takeaway from that. Also for Oklahoma City, Shea, 117 straight game over 20. That's incomprehensible to me. I never thought anybody would come close to Will Chamberlain's record. He's 9 games away from matching that or breaking that record. Incredible. And then again, they had like 4 or 5 guys out, which it seems like that's like the case with OKC this year. And yet they're still in this game against a good team because of their depth. But again, you don't have Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein, AJ Mitchell, Jalen Williams. None of those guys played. And Casey Wallace got hurt during the game.
Yeah. A little slide for them, a couple losses. And then the big one here, 5 straight losses for Minnesota, this most recent one to Golden State. They are going to have the makeup game. They play, or actually they play, that was the makeup game. They play tonight again, so it's a doubleheader, both games against Golden State. But they have not won since January 13th. That's 13 days. They lost to Houston, San Antonio, Utah, Chicago, and now Golden State. Right before this, Legs, we talked about this being an opportunity for them to separate in the Western Conference. They separated in the wrong direction.
That's very true. And last night they put up a stat line, a number in a particular stat category that to me is the equivalent of like a really sloppily played AAU game. 26 turnovers in an NBA game. 26 turnovers for a team.
What's that tell you?
That just tells me, to me, that's just like lack of concentration.
Yes. That's how can you have lack of concentration on a 4-game losing streak? I don't get it.
They lose to a team that just had Jimmy Butler go out for the year with a torn ACL. They're not very deep, and they beat them by 26 points and 26 turnovers. Bad spin for Minnesota. And despite that, by the way, our comment we had earlier, that is not going to remove Anthony Edwards from all-star consideration, okay? So let's put that to bed. Anthony Edwards is an all-star, but they're definitely trending in the wrong direction, man. And it shows you in the West, you have one bad week or a bad couple of weeks.
Yes.
And look at how differently you get viewed because there's several other teams that we're always looking at that are going to be better than them. So bad run for them. Fortunately, it's before the All-Star break. They've got time to kind of get things right and remind people, but right now they are struggling.
3 games now behind the Rockets for the 4 seed. And that, to me, the top 4, you get 1 round at home, at least 1 round. That's the number to kind of look at. 3 games, kind of a big deal. So we'll see if they stop the slide. They have some tough games coming up, including Oklahoma City. All right, hit that outro music for us, Atticus. We hope you enjoyed the show today. Let us know what your all-star reserves are. It's an interesting year for it. I love that you made my day today, Legs. Jamal Murray, a lock.
Lock it in. Tell him to get his plans ready. He's not going on vacation this year.
He probably prefers the vacation with how much they've been relying on him over this last month. Everybody, if you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. And the best thing you can do that's absolutely free to you is you could share the show on social media and let people know it's your favorite NBA show. We're doing it today and Wednesday. We'll have Jason Timpf on Friday, Mark Stein over the weekend. Hit that like button for us. We'll see you on Wednesday.
We all silly like the mayor.